So this tutorial is all about a movement called the pelvic tilt, which is quite a small, acute movement. So in order to explain it, I'm going to use this model of the spine and the pelvis. Now, the pelvic tilt really is looking at helping you to disassociate the pelvis from the lower part of the spine, which we call the lumbar spine, and trying to regain a little bit of mobility through that lumbar spine area. So, in the pelvic tilt, the idea is that to gain mobility through the lumbar spine, we actually have to be able to disassociate this area from the pelvis area, or the pelvic area. And with pelvic tilts, the easiest way to understand that is if you can see the visual representation. As the pelvis tilts under like this, the lumbar spine gently then starts to flatten out or straighten out slightly. Now, your lumbar spine will have a slight curvature in it, okay? So if you were laying on your back, in theory, you should be able to sit your hand under the base of that natural curve. But as you then start to do the pelvic tilt and tuck under through the hips, that area then gets decreased and the lumbar spine gently pushes down into the floor. So that's how we would do a pelvic tilt, starting from here, tucking under through the pelvis and starting to flatten out the spine. Now, like I said, it's a small, acute movement, okay? So you're not expecting to see huge ranges of motion, but the idea would be that if you were laying onto your back on the floor, when I lay onto my back here, I can tip my hand and just place it underneath that natural curve in my lumbar spine. From here, my idea is to try and tilt under through the hips. I'm tucking the hips under and gently pushing that back, or the lower back, down into the floor, holding for 2 to 3 seconds, and then relaxing back up. And as I relax the back up off the floor, it's the pelvis that actually tilts to create the movement. So we tuck under through the hips first of all to push down, hold for 2 to 3 seconds, and then relax back up. And this is a great mobility drill, particularly if you get a lot of tightness through your lower back and your hips. Just a very gentle release technique to try and free off that area and regain a little bit of mobility into that lumbar spine and pelvic region.